Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to Monster Taming and Chill, the podcast where we interview various members integral to the monster taming community to gain a greater insight into their works. Today, I'm very happy to have Leo, or as some of you may know him, LDD, the developer of Necromancer's Gift, on the channel. How's it going, man?
Great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ed. And yeah, as you know, I'm having a Kickstarter right now, and it's like it has surpassed every single expectation that I had going in. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome, of course, anytime, anytime. So, yeah, as you just mentioned, the Kickstarter, as of the time we're recording this, it's been live for about 12 hours, and it's already raised over $4,300 out of its $5,000 Canadian stretch goal. Or, sorry, goal. My first question
Yeah.
to you, Leo, is how does it feel?
It's surreal. It's completely. I was not expecting it. I ran the numbers before starting the campaign, and I thought that I had a genuine chance at making it by the end. But I was not expecting so much support, and also like people messaging me and being like, "Hey, I just backed this for $100. Like, expect more." And yeah, it was just It's also the first podcast where you get to see like a guest who is like in the first hours of a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of work, but when it works out really nicely. And yeah, I'm glad that it's going that way.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I was like I mentioned to you before we got on here. I went to back and it had to have only been like an hour into the campaign, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's already halfway funded. I need to hurry up and get one of these backer things before they all get taken away."
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
All right, so you're developing Necromancer's Gift, and I guess a lot of people watching this podcast might not know much about the game. So, in your own words, can you describe what exactly the game is and what its sort of major features are?
Sure. So uh, Necromancer's Gift is monster taming game with roguelite elements,
Hmm.
in which you don't really have an overworld. You basically battle in turn-based battles against a variety of enemies and creatures, and eventually, obviously, you have to fight a necromancer. And once you beat the necromancer, like the title implies, you get the necromancer's gift, which is not like the friends you made along the way. It's an actual item that you can get in the game.
Hmm.
So I think that already answers a question that people have asked before. And I guess it also implies like an interpretation um, from me, like on what it means and all of that. But basically, that's the game. And then it has a lot of elements in terms of multiplayer that I think people are really gonna love. One of them is PvP, so actual player versus player battles,
Hmm.
turn-based battles, um, with a lot of different modes and different ways of playing.
Okay.
If there's anything that I want to enable is for people to, play the way that they want to play. And on top of that, I also have involved the community in like all aspects of the game. So from naming the creatures and just giving me advice and all of that, I guess yeah, that's the main goal of the game is making sure that I make this game with you, and that at every step in the process you have fun. And I think people have been having a lot of fun, like getting to name the creatures, getting to participate in the daily trivia days. So every day on our Discord, we have sort of like a small trivia where you can guess the name of a creature. And actually, that way, I'm learning the names of the creatures in my own game, right? Because I don't get to name them.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just a bunch of elements like that. So yeah, there you go. That's the game. That's the basic feature of the game. It's just a monster taming game because it has monsters. You capture monsters. You know get a party of creatures, and it is a roguelike in the sense that um, you have multiple runs, and across each run you get to pick certain things. So, for example, because it's a monster taming, I know that people care about the monsters that they're picking, right? So there should be a way to make sure that you can influence that, right? Not necessarily dictate it like granularly, but like influence a lot, like what type of creatures you're gonna meet. And also in the case of shinies, and this is another question that I've had a lot, is like there will be shinies, and a part of the shiny system is so that every time you have another run, another go at the game, the shinies that you've already captured are in some sense kept or influenced a lot so that you can get new shinies in the next runs.
Oh, okay.
In the best way. So yeah, there you go. That's basically the game.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And you were mentioning about like community-based stuff like naming creatures and stuff like that, and I think a lot of people don't realize how important that is, especially in the indie monster taming scene. Like that sort of building of a community is what really helps, and I'm assuming is what really helped your Kickstarter do as well as it did. It's really nice to see, especially like I'm not always typing, but I'm always lurking in your Discord, and I'm always seeing how active it is, and it's very good to see how forthcoming you are with everybody. I've seen different devs sort of disappear for a long time, then come back, but no, you're always like down in the trenches with everybody. So that's definitely great.
I like the way you describe it. For me, yeah, that's it's not like a top down design of like me posting things. It's more like, hey guys, I'm here with you.
Yes.
Like I know this part kind of sucks. Let's try to build it in a better way.
Yeah, exactly.
And it has worked nicely that way. In fact, there is one thing that did happen during development, which was like the priority of items. So you can actually use items in the game.
Yeah.
But I made it so that at the beginning, the way it worked is like the speed of each creature determined like whether you were going to use the item right away or whether the creature was going to use it first.
Okay.
And like it was the worst idea ever. Like it eventually came to me that it felt so odd to like pick an item and wait for the creature to like kill you, and then only after that you get to choose your item, which like goes against every single like convention in in the genre.
Yeah.
And people made me realize that, and I'm glad that like I noticed it relatively early, and I was like, nope, no, let's do it the standard way. It actually works. It feels right this way, and there you go. And the community helped with that, and not only with that, but with a ton of other elements in the making of this game. It's I'm so glad that the people that are there. And yeah, just a small shout out to all the mods and helpers that I have. I don't think that I would be here without them. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Cirque, everybody.
Yeah, he's
Cirque's a mod in every Discord, so shout out to Cirque.
Exactly. He's awesome. Like shout out specifically to Cirque. He's the one behind the meme edition. Like that the first stretch goal is. Well, part of it is making a meme edition, for the people, and people really want to have it. They like even you suggested one of the names. I think it's like for the ones that kind of look like trees. You said something like Pamela Henderson. So we're gonna have something like that. And then Cirque's idea was something like small boy, big boy. So and then he created his hashtag like justice for small boy or something like that. So it's just
that's a great idea. It's very unique. Yeah. That's great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What was your inspiration for creating this game, and when did you decide that you wanted to become a game developer?
Yeah, that is a tricky one. So first of all, I can tell you a little bit about my background in terms of software. Like I'm just a web dev. Like I studied, I went to university and I studied software engineering.
Okay.
At McGill, and I really like writing programs. Like being a programmer is at the core of who I am. I've always enjoyed it ever since I was a little kid. Like my dad, he had like this big, like thick book. I think it was something like teach yourself teach yourself C in 21 days. One of those things that, it says 21 days and it takes you like 21 years to go through it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just so my background is kind of a technical background in that sense. But the main reason why I decided to go into game development, I guess, it's because, weirdly enough, okay, so one of the elements of it was an anime that I watched a couple of years ago, which is about a bunch of girls, high school girls, that want to go to Antarctica. And it's a silly premise. It's like, how on earth would this work? Why would they go to Antarctica? And I think the point of that anime, or at least part of it, was at some points in your life, you're going to get a calling. And you're going to have to sometimes just follow that calling. And we all have those Antarcticas, right? And for me, like making this game is my Antarctica, is my my great perhaps. Like, so yeah, it's that idea of I could be very comfortable just like being a web developer. I'll be okay. I'll be happy. But there's this thing that I have to do that I really want to do. And when the opportunity showed itself up, like I just jumped at it. And I've been developing the game ever since like last year. So it was like a build up of small steps. And it's true that it is my first like real commercial game.
Yeah.
But I've like tried at least to make a couple of small games here and there, and I've joined game jams and all of that. In fact, like the core part of like the battle system, for example, it was just like an idea that I had like in a for a game jam. So for one of those, I think it's called Ludum Dare. Where like you have like a weekend to make a game, and instead of making a game, I just made a battle system. And I think so I totally failed at that like game jam, but the people were like, hey, this would actually be really cool in a game, and I was like, well, here you go, here I am. There you go. That's roughly the story, but I don't have many years like in industry or anything like that, so
okay, very cool. So Necromancer's Gift takes inspiration from games like Slay the Spire and Pokemon. Can you explain for me how the game sort of deviates from its inspirations?
Sure. Well, the first thing that you have to notice is that it's not like any of its inspirations. It's combining elements of them, right? I think Justin, like he was the dev before me, and he said something really interesting that sometimes combining elements from like very different like games or genres gets you to make something that's new. That's I mean, you don't develop anything in a vacuum, so nothing is like completely new. But at the same time, you get innovation that way, right? Or at least that's the way that I feel it. Like in many games are just like, okay, let's take a little bit of this game and then a little bit of this game and combine them, and here goes like an incredibly interesting new take that people haven't tried. So I guess that's one element of it. And the second one is I think that I grew up playing Pokemon. I presume most of the audience like grew up playing Pokemon, that JRPG,
Definitely,
and it's a core part, if you want, of the culture of the world. Like I've spoken with so many people from so many different countries that have this like commonality in their like background and in their like childhood that I really feel connected to. So that's one aspect of it. And then the second one was I knew right away that I was speaking about like Antarctica just now. Like my dream game has never been like an open world, like super high polished 3D thing, which is awesome. Like I'm sorry to say this, I know this is part of me, but I always shield for like Kindred Fates and even Sky Climbers these days. Like those games look so surreally awesome. And I'm glad that the devs behind them, when they talk about the games, they're like, this was my dream. Like when I was a child, I really wanted to see this.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because when I was growing up, my dream Pokemon game was not necessarily about like having this super big open space.
Yeah.
It was more about having a local focused story in which the choice of creatures really matter, and in which like you had a harsher world, you had a harsher take on the things, because when you say like, oh yes, you're making your creatures battle among each other and then everything is fine, nobody dies ever.
Yeah.
It's like it takes a little bit. I mean, it works when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It definitely works when you're a kid, but when you grow up, you're like, you know what, this doesn't entirely feel right. And there's even a comic actually that there's Nuzlocke, right? The Nuzlocke in the Pokemon community, and there are a bunch of different comics around it. And I think there is one that really touched me. I think it is called A Harsh Life, and it's just that it's one trainer going through the process of capturing all these creatures and like losing some along the way, and the emotional impact that would have on a person. So yeah, there you go. Those are roughly the elements that make up why I picked these two completely different games. So Slay the Spire and Pokemon. And also a different element of it is the emotional connection that you have when you're playing different games. So when I was playing Slay the Spire, the feeling that I got was that the cards were an element by which you got to experience combinations, right? By which you made combinations and you were able to make the deck your own. So this is why, like, in my game, there's no cards per se, but the feeling behind the idea is very similar in that you want to make combinations in terms of movement, in terms of move sets and creatures, so that you make your actual team, like, and your team feels in a sense unique to you.
Yeah.
And so there you go. Okay, that is roughly why you end up with these two very different games combined. And also, like, it helps that it takes a little bit less time and resources to make it this way, because, like, trust me, it's like, for example, trying to make a JRPG that like, I've seen the budget of some of the other games. We don't talk about it, but it's like, woo, yeah, that's a lot.
It definitely lets you focus more on polishing the battle system and stuff too. If instead of focusing on designing all the towns and designing a world that feels real and explorable and stuff like that, it definitely allows you to focus more on the things that are more integral to the game. So the battle system is going to be more polished. The characters that are present within the game are going to be more polished than if you have to worry about this entire separate world to build around. Like a lot of games I see, they have interesting worlds, but sometimes if a game gets a little too ambitious with that, the core mechanics will suffer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a bet, right? Like,
yeah.
The developers are taking a bet, and they're taking a really higher bet, whereas I'm taking a relatively smaller bet. But like you said, like, the focus is shifted, and once you have like a personal, more focused game, you get to experience and explore different things than other games. And there you go. This ties back to the idea that Justin had, like, of making sure that sure, we're all like devs in the same genre in a sense, but we all have our own different take on it.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And that's awesome. That's great. This is how you get like a variety of different games, and the community is having an awesome time. It's like the best time to be like a Monster Taming like lover, today.
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay, so the game has a very interesting premise as far as the lore or story is concerned. Can you elaborate a little bit on where the game takes place, how the player arrives in this place, and what the overall tone of the game will be?
Okay. When I read this question, I wasn't sure how much to give away because the story is not like it's not Kindred heart. Sorry, no. What is this? Um, Anyways, the thing is, the story is not super complicated.
Yeah.
It's very small. It's almost like a short story.
Yeah.
But what I can give away is that it is a harsh setting, incredibly harsh and dark setting. But the story itself is not about like, oh, let's all be depressed and be super sad because nothing makes sense. So no, it's at the core of it is the hope of you reuniting with your dog, right?
Yeah.
And it is true that the beginning is a little bit fuzzy for now. You're just, I mean, what I've said so far is something like you're just walking by with your dog, and then, as a dog owner, and everybody who has had a dog knows dogs sometimes get a little bit crazy, or they go around, they kind of take you places, and then you have to just go with them. So I guess the initial time that I had this idea was something like, what if you really let your dog take you on a journey, right? And so I imagined this guy who was in a small village, sure, with his dog. And then one day, I will explain this in the game itself later, but there's a reason why he wants to sort of go away from the village, go, explore things. And so he takes the dog with him, and along the way they get lost, like they do, and he gets separated from the dog, right? And mysteriously he wakes up and sort of meets the Necromancer. And like you said, it's a very incredibly different sort of story from the other stories that we have in this genre, because it's not like an evil bad team that's trying to conquer the world or something like that. No, like the Necromancer's like aim is weirdly enough like not at all trying to conquer the world or even getting away from like the lair that the place where you're going to meet all these creatures. And so another thing that also people have asked me is like, well, like the Necromancer could just meet this person and just kill them. It's like, you're dead now and everything is finished and done. But for a very curious reason, the Necromancer doesn't do this. And there is a reason behind it that we'll explore in the story. And also, there's like, I also said that the Necromancer hates humanity, and it is true. But it is not for a like a grander than life, like super political reason, or I mean, like at first the game, and I'll spoil it a bit. It gives you something like a grandstanding argument, right, by the Necromancer that says something like, "Look at all this forest, and the humans come and they set them on fire, and they kill so many, and I hate them and all that." But then you realize, I mean, in the course of the game, that like this is not really, this is not even a reason. This is just a sort of justification for what happened to the Necromancer. There's a really specific event that happened that deeply affected the Necromancer and made it so that you end up in this situation. So I will try to explore that. And I think a core part of it all is that it is focused on entities and individuals that are going and living their stories. And it's not like about super big, like save the world or like immensely like big ideals. It's more about, people are not entirely logical and they have certain beliefs that at the end of the day, they're going to defend and try to justify. And not all of it makes like 100% sense. So there you go. The story is very focused, very like different from what I've seen in most of the other games.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like plenty of people have told me that this is one of the aspects of the game that they find the most alluring about the game.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So I think I'll get to explore that for sure.
I like the idea that the characters aren't going to be 100% one dimensional, because you see it a lot in anime and a lot in other games where, this is the character's personality and they always are like this, and these are always their ideals, and they're always consistent.
Right, yes.
They don't like, this is a very sort of random example, but I watch a lot of like power scaling videos and stuff like that for like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, a lot of the content creators will say, well, this guy in this situation said this, and therefore that means the person is this strong. Like, for example, this guy said, wow, I don't know, Goku's moving at light speed, but so therefore during this arc in the game, he's at light speed. But he or of the story, he's at light speed, but he should have been at 10 times light speed by now. And then they use it to sort of, say it's a plot hole or something, but like people aren't always 100% correct all the time. So you could just say, well, maybe the person just said that, like maybe it was just an expression, or maybe like the person doesn't know the difference between friggin' 10 times faster than light or light. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what I'm trying to get at here?
Yeah, I totally get you. Yep, I totally get you that, and I'm with you. Like, when you're a kid, it's perfectly okay to have like you have the evil people that always do
evil.
The evil, and then you have the good people that no matter how you put it, like they're always good. And this doesn't really reflect reality, and also it's not particularly interesting. Like once you grow up,
there's so many themes. Like, there's lots of good people who do bad things. There's lots of bad people that do good things. People aren't black and white. People are mixed in with gray. And there's people that, on average are good people, but they're also, selfish. I mean, I think a lot of like the majority of people are, a lot of us like to think we're good people, but at the end of the day, all of us are a little bit selfish. We'll all do things that aren't necessarily moral. You find a wallet with, I don't know, $1,000 in it. A lot of people, they might be good people, but they might still take the wallet. You know what I mean? And if they don't, it might just be because they're scared of getting caught rather than because they they don't want the money. Like, they find $1,000 on the ground, right? They might be scared someone's watching.
They could be selfish for good reasons, so they have a family,
family
to take care of. And who knows, that $1,000 fits all of the kids. So who are you to say that is the most evil thing that anybody can do? So there you go. It goes along the lines of that, of trying to blend the lines between good and evil, and try to explore like the idea that like this grandstanding, like bigger than life, sort of weird, like ideals. In reality, they don't match up. So I'll try to explore that.
I like that. I find that very alluring personally. That's good. I like that a lot. So over to the game's combat, you did mention it is turn-based, and I did notice there's some interesting caveats, including you can hold 2 held items. There's, of course, a stamina system. Can you tell us a little bit more about the complexity of the battle system? Like, will there be abilities, status conditions? You have 2 held items, perhaps if you have 2 specific held items, they could work together in a certain way, or anything like that.
The fact of the matter is there already are. So first of all, there are status conditions, and I think that part is just relatively very normal and typical of the genre. But when it comes to dual held items, the thing is they're supposed to interact with one another.
Yes.
In fact, I have one that is, this is a silly example, but you have a pizza, just a slice of pizza, and then you can have a topping on top of it. And the topping matches an affinity, right? And you also have different types of pizza. So it's possible to have something that, for example, will like inflict a certain status on you. So for example, will poison you.
Yeah.
And, so with a specific topping, and at the same time you have another creature that like says something like, okay, to all the poison creatures in the entire game, so everybody who's here, heal them. So then like it is good for you to have that poison like sort of held item. And at the same time you can have things like you have a ring that will, like, depending on the gem that you match it with, will like heal different types of affinities across like both you and your opponent. And also you can change that ring for a necklace, and instead of like healing you, then it is about increasing the attack of certain like affinities. So it's a lot of play like in that sense. So it's 1v1, yes, but the catch is that there's a lot of like interplay and connections to make it interesting and to give you a lot of variety in that sense, and also a little bit, you know, of silliness, because holding a pizza for this creature is a little bit weird, and I'd like to keep it that way. And then another thing that I think is kind of important to say about the stamina system, and people have suggested it, there will be a way to, you know, regenerate your stamina like battle after battle if you want. The thing though is, one, it is possible to make a setting. So I am confirming now that like if like I want people to have the choice to make the game their own. So if they want to have that because they don't want to deal with like managing stamina, they can totally do that. But in the core game, it is a hard to obtain sort of ability that is awesome. If you really think about it, like it's so useful to just be able to heal your stamina, or even like kill your entire like health bar or things like that, right? But the point is to not make it the easiest. And also another thing that I don't have, which is kind of personal, it's about Nexomon has this thing where you can like rest a turn, I think, or rest a turn.
Temtem
right?
has that too,
And I like the idea, but I don't necessarily want to go that way. I want to make sure that if you make that decision of like, if all your decisions lead you to having no stamina, in a way, you're screwed. And it was on you to manage that if you want. And I guess that is why people may not necessarily like that aspect, and they're like, you know what, game developer, Leo, I like you very much, but this is not the way I want to play. And I'm like, you could totally play a different way. It's good.
Nice.
It's good. But in the main way that I'm designing things is so that you will have to manage your stamina. You will have to either heal it by items, or there are a bunch of moves actually that will heal your stamina, but will inflict you with a status. Right? So and will even like lower certain of your stats. So you have to play around with it. So to me, like the main components that I'm playing around with is your health bar, your stamina, and also the statuses that you have. And I guess also the items that you're holding, right? So you can make a variety of moves that kind of attempt to heal a part of you while taking away other stats that you have, and that's how you play the game. That's how you sort of make an interesting take on the battles. We'll see how it works out as usual, and I'll just try to get as much input from the people that are playing it. I have good hopes that they like it. But yeah, overall, that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, double battles are more complex, or triple, or 6-on-6. I like single battles. I think it gives, especially in the context of Necromancer's Gift being a roguelite and having permadeath. When I battle with, I'm just going to use a game that, let's say, has 3v3, like Monster Sanctuary or Cerulean that has 6v6. I have less attachment to those monsters when I'm battling with them all at the same time. Whereas when I'm using 1 versus 1, I can actually have that, and it sounds silly, but you have that more individual, like one-on-one time with each monster, making them feel more like individuals rather than a part of a group. So when that monster does die, it's going to have a lot more weight to it than if I'm using 6 monsters, oh my support died, better get a new one. Whereas when it's one-on-one, you're like, no, like my, I don't know, uh, Pamela Henderson died. No, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, and you make a good point that it is kind of a different experience, so that is why I have to twitch certain things. Another thing that I didn't mention, and it has to do with the ability to name your creatures, right?
Yeah.
So you don't start with like at the beginning of your run, you don't select the name of your creature. Instead, you're given a candle, and
Okay.
I'll explain how that like the. I mean, it's sorry, I will not explain it, but there's a reason in the story why light and flames take an important role. But the point is, so you have this candle that you start with, and you have to fight against the first floor leader. And once you defeat the first floor leader, only then do you get to like name your creatures.
Okay.
And so it's also because in some sense I want to enable the players to, like you said, care about them. And I think like at the beginning of the game, you're going to like make a lot of runs until you pass the first floor leader. And it was important for me to only kind of give you this ability to actually name the creatures after that part. And another thing that you have to consider is that, holding the candle in itself like has a certain value to you. Like you give these creatures a name, and it should be important. But a way to do it, or the way that I'm doing it, is so that at the very beginning of the game, you don't have to feel pressure into like every single time naming creatures. Every single time.
Okay, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about those choice-driven elements within the game. I've seen what the sort of like I guess in between battles looks like, and you can see like all these branching paths and different ways to go and all that stuff. And I'm guessing they'll always sort of culminate into a floor leader battle. But like
Yes.
what kind of choices can we see? For an example, like in between each battle or each event.
Right. So first of all, you have creature battles, so simply like wild creatures that you can in some sense capture. You have trainer battles, so you battle against trainers that have creatures that you cannot capture. And then you have I guess healing spots. I mean, it will not be named that way. I guess it will probably name something like a campfire, or I'm still setting up like the scene, but something along the lines of that, where you get a fire where you can heal your party actually in different ways. So you pick how you're going to heal them. Then you also have a shop, and I mean this is where you come in. In fact, it's very possible that Ed shows up here in the shop.
Oh wow!
To sell a variety of items and also just be a mysterious type of character.
Ooh,
because it like I mean, just think about it. Like, and why would you have a shop in the middle of like nowhere? What amounts to cave?
You played.
Why would you do that?
Played Resident Evil 4.
I've watched a couple.
There's that one random shopkeeper that no one knows why he's there.
Right? No, yeah, like the JRPGs have that. I love it. It's awesome. Like, it's so cool. Where like just before the final battle, there's this guy's like, "Hey, yahoo, capitalism! Let's make some money. The world could end, but we could make money. What's more important? It kind of. I mean, yeah, it's funny that way." Yeah. Okay. So we were talking about like the things that so you have that. Then you have event rooms where like a variety of events can happen. One of them is just a simple choice. Like you have to pick between, like, for example, losing all your items of a certain kind, but healing your party, or if all your party meets certain criteria, you get a good effect. But if it doesn't fit that criteria, like you like lose something, and you have to pick between those, right? Or you could pick also like to change the affinity of your creatures, or to multiply certain items. So it's a lot of like little different effects that change your party composition if you want.
Okay.
But that you still get a choice in that, right? And those are meaningful choices because they do affect you, and they affect you immediately, and you'll have to pick between those. And also, okay, I have to explain another thing about like the capturing mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
Like you start with you start with basically master balls.
Okay.
Like you will start with like some sort of capturing box that is perfect and catches a creature all the time. The thing is, like in some of these like event rooms, you'll have the ability of downgrading these boxes.
Okay.
For good effects. So it's kind of like taking the inverse approach. Like you start with like perfect capturing boxes that are relatively rare, and then you exchange them down so that you can survive and like you can keep going.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's another thing. And I mean, I haven't confirmed this yet, but I would like to have a couple of other events, like the trivia that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I have no idea why not like have every once in a while like a trivia event where it's like, hey, what is the name of this creature?
Yeah.
You get it correctly, like awesome, you get a good effect. You don't, well, I mean, tough luck, you get something bad.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And also like wacky little events like that that I will try to explore. The good thing is that because like these are relatively small events, I could like design them and try to add like more and more as the game progresses.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds
in
really
development.
Cool. I like all the options actually. It's actually very unique, like the idea of exchanging your items for stuff that gets worse, but you get an additional effect, or like you said, meeting certain criteria, and if you don't, something bad happens. Like that. That's really cool. I like how sort of complex it goes into, and then the trivia is really nice because it rewards you for playing the game longer. Because the more attempts you make, the more you're gonna learn about those monster names and stuff like that. So I really like that idea. It's really interesting.
Yep.
We were speaking about floor leaders, and I just wanted to ask, how will they function, and will they act as, because I know the game's a roguelite and not a roguelike, will they act as sort of checkpoints when they're defeated, or how does that work?
Okay, so right now, this is not set in stone, but the way that I had it is, once you defeat a floor leader, you basically unlock like a different sort of like playthrough, or like I guess gameplay mode, where you can like right away like start from that point and just keep going, right? So keep to the second, and so on and so forth. But the way that it's initially set up is that like in the main idea, you do have to go through all of the floor leaders. But again, there's a lot of player choice, and you don't have to be pushed this way. If you want to play in a different way, there will be that possibility. And the same applies with like, say, I think there was a question of like endless mode. There is an endless mode, and like the thing with that, and the way that I thought about it and rationalized it, is at some points in the story you will be able to like pick that and just keep going and sort of take away the level cap. And if you want to have a, I don't know, level 500 like Veneto and keep going that way, then awesome, keep at it. Because I guess at some point in time, people like really care about having a lot of ways to play the game.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I will try to enable that. So yeah, and I guess a good thing of about being a first time developer, if you want, is like I'm not here like with like 20 awards in design and saying, hey guys, I know exactly what I'm doing. Mostly I'm relatively straightforward in this, like, hey, I'm trying a bunch of stuff, and let's see how it goes, and if you don't like it, well, there will be a way for you to play differently.
Yeah.
And I want you to play differently. You know, I mean, part of a game is, yes, that it's supposed to be challenging, but also that you have options. So yeah.
That's one thing I love about indie devs is they're. I find with AAA or even a lot of AA developers will they think they know better than the community that plays their games. But indie devs aren't like that. Like indie devs are like, let's work together with the community to see what everybody wants. Let's take feedback. Let's like test the waters here and there and see what people like, see what people don't like. Whereas with a lot of AAA games, they feel like they're just made in a factory. This is what we think you'll like, and if you don't like it, too bad.
Right. And the thing is, they have budget concerns
Yes.
because of that, right? They have millions of dollars in the line. So if they do not make a product that like appeals to a mass audience,
yeah,
they're going to be in financial trouble.
Yeah.
Whereas for a lot of indie devs, or at least in my case specifically, I have a smaller budget. I get more wiggle room to experiment with things. So yeah, there's always... it's
hard to find really interesting niche titles that are AAA because everybody's either trying to make a first-person shooter or like a very basic streamlined like adventure game or whatever, because they're all trying to get the biggest demographic possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. There is always like some sort of like, if you're given $1 billion or $2 billion, it will take like a toll on the design decisions that you can have.
Oh yeah.
So
sure.
like even that $1 billion is not for free, right?
Yeah.
So very few things in this life are just that way, where like you get them and everything is sunshine.
Yeah.
It's more like you get to just have different choices in what you make, I guess. So,
yeah, exactly. So over to the Kickstarter campaign, there is currently one stretch goal as of right now, being the meme edition, which we sort of talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, and I wrote this down in the question because I had to remember to say it. I'm guessing that will include some forehead monsters, as we have already seen. But other than that, in terms of stretch goals, what can we expect? Will there be more stretch goals as the campaign moves forward? And do you have any sort of ideas for what you'd like to include?
Yes, there will be different stretch goals. In fact, like this is sort of my, how can I phrase this? I made sure to have enough stretch goals just in case like everything went overboard. But at the same time, I'm good with the funding that I have. Like if I get those 5K, because I'm making a relatively like less demanding game in terms of like art assets and all of that.
Yeah.
I will not need a publisher. I will be okay. But on the other hand, I did have this like just in case, and I think there may be a way to reach them. And so one of them, in fact, probably not probably, but the next one after this one, which I mean, yeah, sure, I can confirm it, is about like character customization.
Okay.
Making sure that, because like a lot of people have asked that, and in fact there was one question I think by Bisloba that asked that.
Yeah.
So right now, like, because again I'm trying to make a relatively like core experience and all of that, customizing the character does take a lot of resources and time.
Yeah.
But not like that much. It takes some money. So the next stretch goal is about that of like, and even in PvP battles, it would be really nice.
For
have
sure.
a ton of options, like from hats, skin, like anything you can think of. It would be like, I'll consider it, and I'll make sure to have character customization. So one of the nicest like stretch goals in my eyes would be that, right?
Yeah.
Because with relatively small amounts of money, I mean, still some, you can have like just better options for the player. Like my focus here, it has always been just giving people more options, and so it helps that. So that's one. Another one is just in terms of content, you can have a slight increase in the number of creatures. Also in terms of like the sound, so music. I think people really like what we have right now.
Oh yeah.
And it's at the core really like 3 songs. So two songs for the battle and one for everything else. And I think that maybe we can do like a little bit more than that. So have other songs and all that. And the good thing is, like, I spoke with like the composer for the game, and he's totally willing to do that. So that's nice.
Yeah, the music is some of the best I've heard in gaming in general. The music's really good. I find myself jamming to the track sometimes.
That's good.
Regarding character customization, this is just a random thought I was having, but you know how in like this isn't a direct one-to-one example, but you know how in like Call of Duty, if you want to like get better camos for your guns, you have to like do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of cool with like character customization. Like, let's say you have to like, you know, if you want like this specific shirt or something that you want to put on your character, like you have to have you know, beaten the game, and then there's one where it's like you have to have like beaten a floor leader without losing like sort of like achievements, but with actual rewards.
Yes.
That just came up in my head. That's kind of cool.
I like it. It's ready, like in the game somehow.
I'll try to make it. That's cool.
No, I mean, no, sorry. Like, now that you've suggested it, I'll try to implement it as well. Like, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always liked that. Like, when you... That's one thing, that's sort of one thing, like, I like Super Smash Bros., but that's one thing I kind of miss about, like, Super Smash Bros. Melee, is, yeah, you can unlock all the characters by playing versus matches, but, like, I found in Ultimate, you unlock them very fast just by playing versus matches, whereas... I remember as a kid trying to beat 100-man Melee to unlock Falco, or like having to play was it like 20 hours of versus matches to unlock Mewtwo, and there was all these different characters that, or one of them was like you have to beat this specific event match to unlock this guy, and I missed that. I love the idea of like you have something to show for it, and that shows what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I remember, like, I haven't really played that much of Smash, but I remember, like, the people that were really into it, and when I played, and when I went to, like, my friends' houses that did have a Nintendo 64, they were always all about this, like, you have no idea how much time I spent to get this thing or that thing, and it's just like, I really like that idea, because you're right, it's a great way to give the player... you know, more things that they can do, and you know, it's not like a simple sort of achievement. It's the type of thing that will affect your experience going on. So I like it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily log everything behind it, but a couple of like very unique designs and that sort of thing, that makes absolutely a lot of sense. I like it. I really like it, in fact.
Awesome. So I saw on the Kickstarter campaign that the alpha is planned for August, and this is more of a question for me, but will this build, this version of the game be something that can be streamed or like you can make video footage on?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, 100%.
Awesome.
Confirm. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad. Can you talk a little bit about the game's monsters? I mean, I personally have seen all of them multiple times. There's not a single one I don't like, which is very rare. I always find a couple monsters I don't like, but I really like the designs of this game.
Good to hear.
Were there a lot of... So you did confirm this on the Kickstarter, but I'm going to get you to say it here so people know. How many monsters are there going to be, and what was your sort of inspiration for coming up with the designs that you did?
Okay, so 100 creatures.
Yeah.
That is the number that we're aiming for.
Yeah.
I think it's a good number, because anything less, it's perhaps too few, and anything more, it requires a little bit more resources.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned before, there will be a stretch goal for that. But even if we don't reach that, like, don't worry, don't fess. 100 is good enough.
Yeah.
More than good enough, in fact, for a good core experience. And then when it comes to the creature design and all of that, I can say this. Okay, for me, the most important part of like the entire roster of creatures is the presence that they have, that they give you. Because the way that I look at it is when you're in nature, I don't know if you've seen, like, say, a deer or
Yeah.
like, you know, one of those, or like a hippopotamus or things like that. Like there is a certain just like the presence that they have already.
Yeah.
It's imposing enough to like let you know that you really shouldn't be like getting near them. Right?
Yeah.
So and in nature, like when fights do happen, on when like things get muddy, like before that, like animals will must in fact like show their own presence,
Yeah.
like in a way, because you know it's over really quickly. Like, you know, when a lion or a crocodile or someone like goes ahead and tries to kill another animal,
Yeah.
it's over incredibly quickly.
Oh yeah.
So before that happens, like there is a lot of, you know, sort of, okay, I watch you, you watch me, or I mean, there is the element of surprise for sure. But say in mating like rituals, like the reason why you know, like they don't kill each other and they find other ways of like dealing with that is because there's a high cost. Like nobody wants to like die right away.
Yeah.
So a good chunk of like the design behind the creatures was that, so that they had like a certain presence to them, a certain odd look at them that immediately gave you this atmosphere of like yeah, they have a presence, they have a certain way that they want to deal with their own weaknesses and strengths. So that is one thing. The second thing that I do have to mention is that I'm not an artist. I did, and this is my personal approach, and this goes with the music too. I spent a lot of time, and I'm not kidding you here, a lot of time, like a lot of time, trying to pick the right people for the right like task. And so I went like and look. You have no idea like how many portfolios like I had to go look through until I found people that I was like, okay, I think they can do this. And then I went ahead, contacted them, got incredibly lucky with people that I'm working with in terms of creators. So there are two people that are helping out with that. One with like finalizing concept art and also coming up with her own ideas, and then the other person with like doing the finishing touches on the animations.
Okay.
And so like when it comes to creature design, I mostly rely on them to do the art. So my focus is spend a lot of time picking the right people. And once you found them, so once I found my contractors, I in a certain sense I trust them, and I would love to have them on board, but you know my budget doesn't allow it, like to have like a full team and that we are all full time. So it's not that way. But so far it has worked like incredibly nicely. And so what did I want to say? That so there you go. So in many like instances, I will trust the artists to, you know what they're doing, and they will tell me what's going on, why they're making certain choices, and I will have to trust their expertise. And I guess the same thing kind of applies to music, because I'm not a musician, but I did know, roughly speaking, what sort of tone and emotion I cared about like conveying to the player. And I am so glad that the people that have worked with me, like you have no idea how lucky I am that people that work with me have been so like awesome and diligent in the way that they do that. And this comes to actually in my history, like the best bosses that I've had are not like the bosses that are like behind my back, like watching every single thing that I do.
Micromanagement,
but, like, yeah, exactly. What I remember is like one of those bosses that I had was like, Leo, I picked you for a reason. It's not like I trust you with everything in my life. No, but when it comes to this thing that I know that you know how to do, I am going to respect your work. And once you enable someone, and once you respect that, and you don't try to like, impose things because you think that when you don't really know, you actually have a good working environment. And that's what I try at least to do. I'm not entirely sure if I do it all the time correctly because every person like changes. But
Yeah.
that is in general my approach is that is just trusting or relegating to the people that have a certain expertise to do a certain task, and me acting more as a coordinator or trying to make sure that don't go in ways that I want to go. But yeah, so all this to say that in a sense, a good chunk of the art decisions really are not mine. I do communicate with people I'm working with, but it's mostly about the emotions and sort of like the overall feeling that I'm trying to convey here. And it's worked really, really nicely. Ed?
Okay. Sorry, you cut out there a little bit towards the end.
Oh, okay, yeah. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
Okay, yeah. So there you go.
All right, perfect. So we're gonna move on to platforms. A lot of people have been asking what platforms. It is stated on the Kickstarter, but could you just say it here? What platforms can we expect to see the game on?
So the game will be on Steam, PC, and Mac, and also mobile, so iOS and Android.
Okay.
And that is for the Kickstarter, for the core of the experience.
Yeah.
I want to focus on it right now. Like a part of having like small budget also is that I have to be really focused on things so that they don't go overboard. But like I also mentioned in the Kickstarter, I would love to have like in the future like versions in consoles, so a Switch version, PlayStation 5 and all of that, but I cannot promise it in the campaign, and I'm not promising it. And a good part of why, like, I think this is like me being me and me the way that I'm doing the Kickstarter is like I want to be straightforward with people in what I can do. And with the budget that I'm managing, I cannot reasonably like personally like try to get into all these consoles, but I want to eventually. So let me focus on Steam. Let me deliver what I'm promising on the Kickstarter, focusing there then, and then once that is done, I will try my best, and I will of course like. Yeah, I don't know what I will do to get Nintendo to get me on the Switch.
That's definitely fair. That's a fair approach. It's better. It's better to say, hey, I don't know if it's coming to console, than to say it is, and then and then something happens, and then no, it definitely very commendable what you're doing. Having all your cards on the table.
Yeah, so there you go. That's my approach. But I mean, and that to say that it doesn't necessarily have to apply to every single like team or developer. So like when it comes to other teams, they may have like different priorities, or they may have different things or ways that they look at it, in which they can take like different risks. And it works out for them like really nicely. So it kind of comes back to the idea that different developers are trying to like achieve different things.
Exactly.
And there's like a whole ecosystem of games here, and I'm not trying to be a whale. And like because I'm not trying to be a whale, I get to do really cool things, but it also means like being, relatively humble and being like, hey, just let's focus. Like what you said, just being straightforward and be like, hey, I don't know. I'll when the decision comes after the Kickstarter, after it's on Steam, I'll communicate with the community. I'm communicating with the community. I'll communicate with everybody, and I'll just like I've been doing for this past months, like just say what's up and where I can go. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so we already talked about PvP. We talked about shinies. Let's move on to the community questions, which we got a few. We have a couple good ones, especially towards the end. I'm going to start out with this one from Cirque. What was the hardest part of the game making process in your eyes?
I love Cirque. No, let's see. I thought about. I think out of all the questions that you sent me before, like we started, I think this is one of the most interesting questions. I'm not entirely sure what the hardest thing in game development is, but maybe that's it. It's all the things that you have to do
Yeah.
that make it so tricky.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that, like, it is not only about programming the game. Like, the programming is only one aspect of it. I have to coordinate a lot of things. I have to, because it's only basically me doing a bunch of things. I have to get into like the marketing. And I'm not a marketing guy. Like, I don't have that background, and it is hard. It is so hard to like market things correctly. But I give it a shot. So like, I think that one of the hardest things about game development is that, ironically enough, it's not only about game development. Like, it's not only about the game that you're making, but it's about everything besides the game that you're like also having to do. So, the community that's building around the game, the outreach that you have to do for the game. But at the same time, another thing that is hard is that I don't necessarily know a lot of things. So there's a lot of ambiguity in what I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's tricky, because the weirdest part, if I'm completely honest, is like just before the Kickstarter launch, I was like,
I can imagine.
Okay, let's hope for the best. I think there's a good chance at it, but have I done everything correctly?
Yeah.
I think I haven't. I should have done this instead. I should have done. It's just like, yeah. So it's let's say that game development it's not for the type of person that like needs like how can I say this, the safest path in life. It's a pretty weird thing. So that's why I tell like and I'm confirming here, we actually have a little chat for all the devs, and like I've told people, like, we're crazy, like seriously, making a game is an insane sort of thing that you do, and if I do it and I have really good reasons to make it, but when it's like every once in a while it's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and I'm like, specifically I have a way that I want this to go, and it's so to answer that question, it's a good question. Thanks for asking it, sir.
We got a question here from Jex. How many floors will there be? Oh, and we did mention this. Will there be an infinite mode?
And there will be an infinite mode. Yes.
Okay. And sorry, how many floors is that? You kind of cut out there. Five. Okay. Okay. Very cool. Okay. So actually, if you guys check out the Kickstarter campaign, which by the way I forgot to mention, but Discord, Twitter, Kickstarter will all be linked in the description. We have seen, I believe, all 5 floor leaders then. Yeah,
the initial concepts at least. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you guys can also check that out if you want to see what they look like. Very, I want to see a very mysterious and intriguing looking bunch.
Good.
This question's good from Nazir. So we know the game has held items, and I think he's asking, does the game have items? But you did also mention that there will be items that you could use. He said, will the game have mimics?
Yeah, I want to ask you, what does that mean?
Oh, a mimic is like, you ever play Dark Souls?
I've watched playthroughs.
Okay, so you ever see someone try to open a chest and then the chest has teeth and just like bites their head off? Yeah, that's a mimic.
Yeah, I see what a mimic is. Yes.
So okay, I guess in a game, like, I guess in a choice-driven game, the only way I could think of it is like, you pick like one of the mystery events or something, and then there's like 2 chests, and then one of them's a mimic and one of them has an item or something, and if it's a mimic, it like attacks you. I don't know how it would work, but
yeah, no, exactly. So there you go. For single individual items, that's a no.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the events, That's a good idea, actually. I like it. And there must be like a very subtle like way to differentiate between the two.
Yeah, there
So
is in
that,
Dark Souls. Yeah, there is.
expert players know. But that's a good idea. I'll write it down and I'll put it for sure.
Yeah,
It's
in Dark
relatively easy
Souls,
to implement too.
the chain of the mimic, it kind of, if it points towards you, it's like a mimic, and if it points away, it's not, or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like that. Yeah,
Wow.
it's very, very subtle.
That's an awesome thing. I like it. Yeah, for sure.
What are the struggles of having a limited budget? And that was asked by Bottled Ducky.
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 I love Ducky. Yeah. I think that part of it is that because you have different budgets, you have to aim for different things. So I cannot, like I mentioned in the console part of like, in certain aspects, like I have to prioritize different things than people with bigger budgets have to. So that's one. And then the second one, I guess, for sure, there are a couple of things that I cannot implement because I have a limited budget. That's for sure, that I have to, just go and say, hey, I just don't have like the money to make that. But at the same time, like there are good things that come with having a good small budget. Like I've already mentioned a couple, and it's in a sense it kind of reflects nature in a way, right? So you have different animals that are trying to achieve different things, and not everybody is trying to be a whale, and not everybody is trying to be a rabbit or things like that, and that's awesome, because that way we have, at least the players benefit, right? So they have different games that they can play. But yeah, it's totally right. Like Ducky here has got a point. Like there are definitely like shortcomings that come with having a relatively small budget. That's for sure.
So Cirque asks again, do you have any plans beyond Necromancer's Gift, or would you like to just have it remain as your only game?
Oh, I have plans. At least.
Oh yeah.
In the short term. So there's the game, and then there's an expansion.
Okay, cool.
For sure. So and by expansion, I mean, I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but there are a couple of games in the old days, so in the 90s. So StarCraft or Warcraft or things like that. And when we talk about expansions, it was not like a little small side mission or things like that. No, we were talking about like chunky, like thick expansions. And so that would be my aim. Like the first thing that I would absolutely love to have is like a proper expansion to the game. And a sequel, I don't want to confirm it yet. But it would be so cool. It would be so cool. Sure. But let's not what is this thing? Catch our eggs before they hatch.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, count the chicks before they've hatched. Yeah.
So there you go. If there's anything that you take away from this, it's like I'm more of a one step at a time. Hey, let's build this thing. And moreover, I don't have the experience to build this yet. So let's block by block and see how it goes. But on a personal note and in terms of motivations, I would absolutely love to have a sequel. That would be awesome. But I cannot commit to it right now. But we'll see.
So there you guys have it. It's been confirmed. Necromancer's Gift 2, 8K resolution, open world, bigger than Breath of the Wild. Okay, so this is there's a question that was actually already answered. We already talked about it. Roxas asked what was a Necromancer's Gift and sort of what you could tell us about it. Is there anything else you could say, or are we just going to leave it at what you had mentioned earlier?
No, let's keep it mysterious.
Yeah, I figured we got a lot of interesting information about it already, and we do have the most powerful question at the end here. It's I was asked by Jolly, and Cirque was salty that he couldn't ask it first. Favorite book, and for those of you who have been in the Discord for a while, you'll know why this question's funny. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Little Prince.
Okay, I haven't heard of it.
It's a very small book.
Okay.
It's a children's story. In fact, it's I think about 100 pages long, and it's the story about like a guy gets lost in the middle of the desert, I think.
Okay.
And then like this mysterious guy that actually comes from a different planet shows up, and it's just basically like they stay together for a bit until the pilot, I mean the guy was a pilot, until he repairs his airplane and is able to leave. But I think that the core part of why I really like this little book is that every year I actually read it.
Okay.
I go to the library, to the same library, in the same place, and go and read it. And I get the impression that I don't know why I started doing that, but it's a different way to experience a book and to read it many times. And one thing that I did want to mention with regards to reading and all of that is that I really love reading, but at the same time, I hate the way that you're forced to do it in, like, say, high school or things like that.
Yeah.
It's like so. It's imagine like being forced to like play Demon Souls or like Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
And like every single, I don't know, like an hour you have to write an essay, and then you have to like, oh boy, that would suck. So
yeah, it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, there was a point in my life that I'm very glad that I noticed that, you know, you can read books in the way that you just want to. Like, you can read books again. You can read a book like one chapter randomly. You could read it very quickly, so in 1-2 days, or you could read it very slowly. You could, you know, it's up to you. And it's roughly also the way that I take with games.
Yeah, I was about to say that kind of all comes together.
Yep, exactly. Yep. It's just part of, I think, who I am in a sense. It's just really, really liking that book. So go ahead and read it, or maybe don't read it. Actually, maybe never read it. In fact, and this is the only thing else that I will mention about books. There was a book that I read that the title is, I'm not kidding you, it says How to Talk About Books That You Haven't Read. And it's just hilariously funny. It's almost like a bunch of nonsense, but my type of nonsense.
Yeah.
So if there's any book recommendation, it would be that. And also just the last thing that I have to say on this, and why I ask it every time. Well, first of all, it's for the meme, and you know, memes are important.
Exactly.
But more than that, it's an interesting question. I like to know what other people have read, I guess, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something complicated.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. All right, so I think we're going to wrap things up. We got through all the community questions, all of the questions I had for you. Was there any specific note, as it were, that you wanted to sort of end on, or any last words you want people to remember after they're coming off of this podcast?
Okay, wait. There was like this bingo that people like made, right? So we should go back and like mention every single thing.
Great creature. The dev of New Town Needs Tamer came up with a bingo. And for those of you who don't know, it was in the Discord. The bingo, one of them had to do with like talking about like programming takes a long time. Ed mentions Game Maker. They talk about an Ed NPC. Yeah, definitely go check out that bingo and see how you did.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. That's the ending. You should play more bingo. That's the takeaway from this entire podcast is play bingo.
I should start leaving like a link to the bingo in the description or something, or like a picture on screen or something, and then letting like people just like use it themselves to like sort of see what they can get or whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. That's awesome.
It's hilarious. Okay. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Leo, for joining me today. And it was absolutely my pleasure to have you. This was a great interview. I learned a lot about the game. A lot of the questions we asked, I had known a lot of it because I'd been following the game, but I'm hoping a lot of new people will sort of come in and say, oh, this looks pretty cool. Let's check out that Kickstarter and see what's going on. And again, Kickstarter, Discord, Twitter, all linked in the description for you guys to check out. And yeah, again, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks to you. Seriously, you are like the best. Like, we devs always tell you this, but seriously, like, follow this guy on YouTube, like, subscribe and like all that thing.
Thank you.
No, but yeah, thanks a lot, and it's awesome to be here, and thanks for doing this.
Again, anytime. It was my pleasure. We'll definitely have you on again when Alpha launches. We'll have you on for some more questions.
And for the karaoke, remember, we have to have a karaoke with the devs. Sing along.
Monster Taming Karaoke confirmed.
Yes.
All right, so yeah, with all that said, definitely make sure to check out all the Necromancer's Gift social media links, and we will see you guys in the next video. Take it easy, guys.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.